Asterisk asterisk the feud in the shadows asterisk asterisk. Freshman Jake Morton had always felt a gnawing emptiness since his mother's mysterious death. Her passing left behind more questions than answers, and Jake was determined to uncover the truth. His journey led him to a forgotten corner of the university library, where he discovered an ancient book that whispered secrets of a hidden world. The book spoke of a secret community known as the Lunar Order, a society that existed in the shadows and dealt with the supernatural. Intrigued and desperate for answers, Jake sought them out. He was soon initiated into their ranks, learning that his mother had once been a powerful member who had crossed paths with dark forces. Jake's initiation wasn't just a simple ritual. It was a dangerous game that tested his wits, courage, and endurance. The challenges he faced were perilous, pushing him to his limits. Yet, each trial brought him closer to uncovering the truth about his mother's death and the dark world she was entangled in. One night, under a blood-red moon, Jake discovered the existence of werewolves within the Lunar Order. These werewolves were not the mindless beasts of legend but fierce warriors locked in an ancient feud with dark magicians. The magicians, wielding forbidden spells and curses, sought to control the supernatural for their own sinister purposes. Jake learned that his mother had been killed by a dark magician named Malachar, who aimed to harness the power of werewolves to dominate the supernatural realm. Consumed by rage and the desire for vengeance, Jake vowed to take down Malachar and end his reign of terror. As he delved deeper into the feud, Jake found himself torn between two worlds. The werewolves, led by the noble but fierce alpha, Cade, were wary of Jake's motives but saw potential in his resolve. They trained him in their ways, teaching him to harness the primal instincts within him. However, the dark magicians, sensing Jake's growing power, set their sights on him. Malachar, in particular, saw Jake as both a threat and a valuable pawn. The lines between friend and foe blurred, and Jake had to navigate a treacherous path, unsure of whom to trust. One fateful night, as the moon reached its zenith, a confrontation between Jake and Malachar unfolded. The air crackled with dark energy, and the forest around them seemed to hold its breath. Jake, armed with newfound abilities and the spirit of his mother guiding him, faced the dark magician in a battle that would determine the fate of both the werewolves and the Lunar Order. The clash was fierce, with spells and claws tearing through the night. Jake fought with everything he had, drawing on the strength and training given to him by the werewolves. Just as victory seemed within reach, Malachar unleashed a final, devastating spell that enveloped them both in a blinding light. When the light faded, Jake found himself alone in the forest, the scent of blood and magic heavy in the air. Malachar was gone, but the darkness he represented still lingered. The werewolves emerged from the shadows, their eyes filled with a mix of hope and caution. Cade approached Jake, placing a hand on his shoulder. "The battle is far from over, Jake. Malachar may be defeated, but his followers will not rest. We must stand together, stronger than ever." Jake nodded, his resolve hardening. He had avenged his mother, but the fight against the dark magicians was just beginning. As the moon cast its silver light over the forest, Jake knew that his journey was far from over. The feud in the shadows would continue, and he would be at the heart of it, ready to face whatever darkness lay ahead. The days turned into weeks, and Jake's life became a constant balancing act between his mundane university responsibilities and his secret life within the Lunar Order. He continued his training with Cade, honing his skills and learning the intricacies of werewolf magic. His bond with the werewolves grew stronger, and he began to see them as a new family, bound by a shared purpose. But peace was elusive. The dark magicians, leaderless but still dangerous, began to stir. Strange occurrences plagued the town, people disappearing, bizarre weather patterns, and an overwhelming sense of dread that seemed to seep into every corner. The werewolves were on high alert, sensing that something sinister was brewing. One night, while on patrol, Jake stumbled upon an old, decrepit mansion on the outskirts of town. The place reeked of dark magic, and Jake felt a chill run down his spine as he approached. The air was thick with a malevolent presence, and he knew that this was where the dark magicians were regrouping. Inside the mansion, Jake found clues that pointed to a ritual one had involved harnessing the power of an ancient artifact known as the Blood Moon Amulet. This amulet, according to legend, could amplify a magician's power tenfold and grant them control over werewolves. If the dark magicians succeeded in their ritual, it would spell doom for the Lunar Order and anyone who stood in their way. Jake returned to the werewolves with this dire news, and together, they devised a plan to infiltrate the mansion and stop the ritual. As they prepared for the battle, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. There were whispers among the werewolves about a traitor in their midst, someone who was feeding information to the dark magicians. The night of the assault arrived, and the werewolves moved swiftly and silently through the forest, converging on the mansion. Jake led a small team inside, navigating the labyrinthine halls and avoiding the traps laid out by the dark magicians. The tension was palpable, and every shadow seemed to hide an enemy. As they reached the main chamber, they found Malaker's followers gathered around a stone altar, chanting in a language Jake couldn't understand. The Blood Moon Amulet glowed ominously at the center, radiating dark energy. The werewolves launched their attack, and chaos erupted. Jake fought with a ferocity he didn't know he possessed, his mind focused on one goal: destroying the amulet. But as he reached the altar, a shadowy figure stepped out from the darkness, a figure Jake recognized all too well. "Mother," he gasped, his heart pounding in his chest. The woman standing before him was the spitting image of his mother, but her eyes were cold and devoid of the warmth he remembered. "Hello, Jake," she said, her voice a haunting echo of the past. "You've done well to come this far." Jake's mind reeled. "You're alive." She shook her head slowly. "Not quite. What you see is a fragment, a shadow of who I once was. I tried to protect you, but the dark magicians had other plans. They used me to lure you here." Rage and confusion wired within Jake. "Why? Why did they want me?" His mother's shadow smiled subtly. "Because you are the key, Jake. The Blood Moon Amulet requires the blood of a werewolf and the sacrifice of a magician's kin to unleash its full power. You have both in your veins." Before Jake could react, the dark magician seized him, binding him to the altar. The werewolves fought desperately, but the dark magician's power surged, overwhelming them. Malaker's chief lieutenant, a man named Draxus, stepped forward, holding a dagger etched with runes. "Your sacrifice will bring about a new era, Jake," Draxus sneered, raising the dagger. Jake struggled against his bonds, but they held firm. Just as the dagger was about to plunge into his heart, a deafening roar shook the chamber. Cade, blooded but unbowed, charged at Draxus, knocking him aside. "Get the amulet," Cade shouted to Jake. With newfound strength, Jake broke free and grabbed the amulet. It pulsed in his hand, its power threatening to consume him. He focused, channeling all his rage and sorrow into a single thought: destroy. The amulet shattered, releasing a wave of energy that sent the dark magician sprawling. The shadows lifted, and Jake's mother's apparition faded, a look of peace on her face. The battle was over, but the cost had been high. The werewolves had lost many of their own, and the threat of the dark magicians, though diminished, still loomed. As Jake stood amidst the ruins of the mansion, he knew that this was only the beginning. The shadows held many more secrets, and the true war had yet to be fought. In the aftermath, Jake returned to the Lunar Order with a heavy heart. Cade and the surviving werewolves rallied around him, their determination unwavering. They had struck a blow against the dark magicians, but the fight was far from over. As the days passed, Jake delved deeper into his training, pushing himself to the brink. He sought out ancient texts and allies, determined to strengthen the Lunar Order for the battles ahead. The memory of his mother's shadow haunted him, driving him to uncover the full extent of the dark magician's plans. One night, as he pored over an ancient manuscript, Jake found a hidden passage that spoke of a prophecy that foretold the rise of a warrior who would unite the supernatural factions against a common enemy. The warrior, it said, would be marked by the blood of both wolf and magician. A chill ran down Jake's spine as he realized the prophecy was about him. But there was more. The prophecy also spoke of a betrayer, someone close to the warrior, who would bring about a great calamity. Jake's mind raced. Who could the traitor be? The werewolves had become his family, and the thought of one of them betraying him was almost too much to bear. He knew he had to be vigilant. Weeks passed, and the dark magician's activity dwindled. The werewolves, under Cade's leadership, fortified their defenses and built alliances with other supernatural beings. The lunar order grew stronger, and a fragile peace settled over the town. However, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that the calm was just the eye of the storm. One evening, while Jake was training alone in the forest, he heard footsteps behind him. He turned to see Arya, a werewolf he had grown close to, standing there with a troubled expression. "Jake, we need to talk," she said, her voice tense. "What's wrong, Arya?" Jake asked, sensing her unease. "I've been investigating the whispers about a traitor," she confessed. "I found something disturbing. There's a secret meeting happening tonight at the old chapel. I think we should go." Jake nodded, his heart pounding. Together, they made their way to the chapel, moving silently through the shadows. As they approached, they heard voices coming from inside. Peering through a crack in the door, they saw a group of werewolves and dark magicians in heated discussion. To Jake's shock, he recognized one of the figures. It was Cade. "Cade," Jake whispered, disbelief washing over him. Arya placed a hand on his arm, urging him to stay quiet. They listened as Cade spoke to the dark magicians, his voice low but clear. "We can't let Jake find out. The prophecy must be fulfilled, and he's the key. Once we control the amulet's power, we'll reshape the supernatural world." Jake's blood ran cold. Cade, his mentor and leader, was the traitor. The revelation was a crushing blow, but Jake knew he couldn't let it paralyze him. He had to act. They retreated into the forest, formulating a plan. With Arya's help, Jake rallied the loyal werewolves and other allies. That night, under the light of a full moon, they launched a surprise attack on the chapel. The battle was fierce, but this time, Jake was prepared. He confronted Cade, his heart heavy with betrayal and anger. "Why, Cade, why did you betray us?" Cade's eyes were filled with a twisted resolve. "You're too naive, Jake. The world needs order, and the amulet's power will give us that. Your mother understood the cost of peace, and so must you." Their fight was brutal, but Jake's training and determination prevailed. With a final, powerful blow, he defeated Cade, breaking the dark magician's hold over him. As the dust settled, the surviving dark magicians fled, their plans in ruins. The werewolves, though battered, stood victorious. Jake took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the prophecy lift from his shoulders. Arya approached him, a smile breaking through her weariness. "You did it, Jake. You fulfilled the prophecy." Jake nodded, a sense of peace washing over him. "We did it together, Arya. The lunar order is stronger now, and we'll keep fighting to protect our world." The dawn broke, casting a golden light over the forest. For the first time in a long while, Jake felt hope. The battle against the darkness was far from over, but with the support of his new family and allies, he knew they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. And as he looked toward the future, Jake felt his mother's spirit guiding him, proud of the warrior he had become. The feud in the shadows had been a harrowing journey, but it had also forged unbreakable bonds and a brighter path forward. The Lunar Order, now united and vigilant, continued to protect the balance between the supernatural and human worlds. Jake, embracing his role as a leader, worked tirelessly to ensure that the peace they had fought for would endure. The darkness still lurked, but with each passing day, the light grew stronger. The end of the feud marked a new beginning, a testament to the resilience and strength of those who dared to stand against the darkness. And in the heart of it all, Jake Morden found his place, honoring his mother's legacy and forging a future where hope and courage would always prevail.